Hi everyone, it's Gemma again, aka Jam Jar Sews, and I'm here for a fun summer project with Bombay Stores fabrics. So today we're going to be making this Simplicity wrap skirt. So this is the Simplicity 8606 and it's got different lengths and styles, and so there's an option with the flounces as they're called, which I think is a great name, or the ruffles, and there's an option without, and there's a maxi length or ankle length one I think it is, and then a shorter one that comes to the knee. And I'm going to be making this version here, version D, so it's a shorter version but still with this ruffle. Now this project is actually inspired by an Instagram post that I saw on the By Hand London page, where they'd made a gorgeous version using their own self-drafted pattern but with contrasting gingham styles. I'm actually going to be using two types of gingham from the lovely people at Bombay Stores Fabrics. So the main part of my skirt is going to be in this gorgeous red gingham, and then I'm going to do my flounces or ruffles in this pink gingham. So get a really fun contrast there. I really liked that part of the Instagram post. I thought it was a fun twist on this style. So that's what I'm going to be using, and both of these are available from Bombay Stores Fabrics. So I think these fabrics are going to work really well for this project, because for the one for the ruffles, it's nice and light. So I think it would be good for the summer and nice and lightweight to wear. But again, it also feels stable enough that sewing with it won't be too difficult. And that's been a pretty similar pattern for me for all the fabrics I've got from Bombay Stores Fabrics. They've always been really easy to sew with and create a really professional looking garment. So I would definitely recommend. They've got loads of gingham in beautiful colours, so check that out, because I think that's going to be a big trend this summer. They've also kindly provided matching thread, so I've got a red one to go with the red gingham, this white thread to go with the pink gingham to put that together, and then you just need interfacing for the waistband, which again you can get from Bombay Stores Fabric. As for this project, I'm using two different fabrics because I'm doing a contrast. I kind of split up my pattern pieces, so I've done my waistband and sort of the tie ends for the waistband in the red gingham. I've also done my main back piece and my main front piece in the red gingham. So that's going to be the main part of the dress. To get the contrast, I've cut out the flounces in the pink gingham. So there is a front left flounce. There is a front right flounce. It's quite hard to say. And then there's also a back flounce, which you cut to. And then the next step is to transfer your pattern markings, and if you check out my video on how to make a shift dress on this channel, you can see how you do that, and then we start sewing. First sewing step is to do the stay stitching on our two front pieces and our two back pieces. So this is for me in the red gingham, and all stay stitching is a straight line of stitching about 1.3 centimeters away from the edge, and we're just going to do it along this top curve just to make sure that it stays in place whilst we sew the garment together. Once you've done your stay stitching, it's then time to attach your front and back panels all together. So it says to start with sewing your two back panels together along the notched edge, and then you attach your front panels to your two back panels, so you've got one on either end. So I've just pinned it up all together. The instructions say to sew them one by one, but I'm just going to take it to my machine like this and sew those all together. Your main skirt parts together, it's then time to move on to the flounces. So the first step is to stay stitch, again 1.3 centimeters from these curved edges of your flounces. So you do that for your two back flounces and for your left front flounce and your right front flounce. Quite a tongue twister, that one. Okay, so very similar to the main skirt pieces, once you stay stitched all your flounces, then you attach the two back flounces together. So this is very long. And then you attach your front right flounce, which is the longest one because that's the skirt flap that's going to be in the front when you wrap the skirt around. That's basically making sure you protect your modesty with that one. And then you attach the front left flounce, which is shorter. So we're going to sew these together. Then I'm going to finish off the edges of this and my skirt panels with my overlocker. Now I'll finish the edges of my skirt pieces and my flounce pieces with my overlocker. If you don't have an overlocker, that's no problem. You can either use pinking shears or a zigzag stitch on your machine to do this. So the next step before we attach the flounce to the skirt is to do a nice narrow hem all along the edges of the flounce. So that's on this short edge and then this very long curved edge that forms the bottom edge of the skirt, the bottom hem of the skirt. So I've actually overlocked mine first to finish off the edges. I'm not turning the seam over twice and I didn't want a raw edge on the inside. My flounce, I've used a pretty narrow hem of about 1/2 inch, just turned over once, and I think that will give me the length I want in the skirt. But obviously this is a chance for you to personalize it, and if you want it to be your skirt to be longer or shorter, this is the time you can decide to do that. So once you've hemmed your flounce, the next step is to attach it to the main skirt. So I've already done this. You can see it's sewn on all the way around here. And basically to do that, we attach the longer flounce, which was the right front flounce, to ideally the right side of the skirt. And you start that at the top and you stitch all the way around with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance all the way across the skirt. And then on your other side, because this is a flap that goes underneath, it doesn't finish all the way to the edge. It just kind of goes to here, and then you won't see this gap when you're actually wearing the skirt. So as the flounce on the left-hand side doesn't go all the way up, the next step is then to hem this raw edge here and just do a narrow hem. So I've now sewn that hem down. So I've got the nice curve here, and then the stitching lines up with the edge here, so that's connected. As you can see, you do get a bit of a sort of like shallow V here, but that seems to be what the pattern looks like. And as this part's covered when you're wearing the skirt anyway, I don't think that's a problem at all. So our next step is to move on to the waistband, and the waistband main piece is interfaced. So it's up to you what kind of interfacing you used. I've used something quite lightweight rather than something that would make a super heavily structured waistband, because I think that'll go better with the style of the skirt and works really well with this gingham. And then you fold under the unnotched edge by 1/2 inch. So that's to prepare it before we attach it to the skirt. Step, once we've folded that edge over, is then to pin the waistband to the skirt, and that's raw edge with the raw edge of the skirt. So once you've attached the waistband to the skirt and you've stitched it, you then trim this edge. So this is the seam where I attached the skirt and the waistband. You trim that. You can clip it if you need to around the curves. Mine seems to be fine, so I haven't done that. And then you press the seam upwards towards the top of the waistband. So there are different pattern pieces for the right tie end and the left tie end, so it is important that you attach them to the right side of the skirt. For each tie, we want to fold it along this long end, and we're going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and we're going to close up one of the short ends without the dots noted on it, which should be on your pattern piece. And we're just going to go along there all the way along this long edge. So you've stitched your one short edge and long edge of your tie end together. I've then trimmed it with my pinking shears, and I'm going to turn the whole thing inside out. So once you've turned your tie end inside out, and then I've pressed mine flat, the next step is then to attach it to the waistband. So you just attach it on the end here. You can see I pinned the raw edges together, so I've got the raw edge of the waistband matching with the raw edge of the skirt there. So you actually match where you've marked the large circle on the waistband piece with the large circle on the tie. We then need to hide this raw edge. So to do that, we fold the waistband down just at this point, and we do right sides together, and again stitch down here with a 5/8 inch. Once you've attached your tie ends, the next step with the waistband is then to fold it over to the inside. So basically we've got our nice folded edge now on the outside, and we've folded it over on the inside to cover up this raw edge that we have here from attaching the waistband to the main skirt. And all I'm going to do is I've pinned that all in place, and I'm going to stitch all the way down the length of the skirt to secure that folded over waistband in place. Sort of fold it over so that I can stitch in this sort of ditch here where the main skirt is attached to the waistband, so you can't actually see the stitching. So that's going to be my aim, but I just need to make sure that I then catch this folded edge. So the final step in the pattern is then to sew in a buttonhole on the waistband, and what that does is it provides a hole for your longer tie, your left tie, to slip through so you can tie up the skirt properly. So you don't have a button to guide how big the buttonhole should be, but you can, I've measured it on the pattern piece and it's 1 inch long, so I've set up that I was as if I was doing a 1 inch. So I'm just going to sew in the buttonhole using the buttonhole foot that came with my machine. Most machines come with these, and if you check out the video I made on how to make a shirt on this channel, then I talk through exactly how I do that on my machine. So that's our final step, and then our skirt is done.